This is Digivation Network.
The past decade was an important and transformational one for the telecoms industry, even in Nigeria. The digital landscape has changed as the shape of telcos is redefining human engagement. From artificial intelligence to big data, cloud computing to robotics, Nigeria, through the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, is repositioning for maximum gains. Thus, industry thought leaders like the Association of Telecoms Companies of Nigeria have consistently helped drive the growth of the sector. As part of our effort to ensure Nigeria reaps the full benefit of the new digital economy, the president of the association, Teniola Olushola, throws more insight into the body's activities as it projects into 2020.
2019, I believe, was a good year for the association. We were able to complete a number of engagements, stakeholder engagements, that meant that we were able to be beneficial to the discussions on topical issues. I'll come back onto the topical issues, but really I think that if we start back as far back as February, as you know, the broadband plan of 2013 to 2018 ended in December 2018. We then called a meeting of all stakeholders, including the then former Minister of Communication, Honorable Adebayo Shitu, with the EVC, Professor Dambata, and it was well attended. All stakeholders, government, private sector, public sector were there to understand what we had achieved. One of our NEC members did a very good review on that. The presentation went down well. Even Dr. Ernest Ndukwe, who was one of the co-chairs of the Nigerian Broadband Plan of 2013-2018, was there. So the intention of that meeting was really a review of, or like a post-mortem of what we have really done. Because remember, it had just been announced that we had achieved 30% broadband penetration, and there were differing opinions about whether 30% had been truly met according to the Nigerian Broadband Plan, or was it based on the measurements that NCC had adopted, and I believe there were the ITU measurements that they had used, population versus those that are subscribed to 3G and 4G networks. One of the things that was missing, and as you know, it's very important, that the consumer experience is based on a minimum of 1.5 megabits per second. So the assumption by NCC, though valid, was that if you are running a 3G network or 4G network, there's an assumption that a user is getting minimum download speeds of 1.5 megabits per second. The CEO Roundtable was very important because we felt, and I think the industry felt, that there were many issues that were not being addressed. And if we didn't give a forum or an avenue for our members to vent their frustrations, then it would be bottled in and could explode. And what do I mean by that? It was a roundtable meeting of all senior executives who were represented, and some came as CEOs, that was open, fair, emotional, but honest about the state of our industry. That meeting resulted in a communique that was written under Chatham House rules and shared with NCC. NCC did receive the communique and started to address some of the issues that were highlighted. Though some of those issues are still not addressed, like interconnect issues and a few others, but again, we can talk about that a bit more later on in this during our discussion. We had already established that the actual elections that created the new NEC 2018 to 2020 would have some set targets. And with any general meeting, or annual general meeting in this case, we had to update the wider stakeholders, our members, of some of the activities we had pursued. And I think there was a long list of, I think just shy of 35 activities that we had been engaged in that year of 2018. And also we had turned in a surplus on funds, which is a good thing. So it showed that the activities that we're engaged in were obviously helping to establish our Secretariat, because we had been at that point in time 1 year in this ready building where we're holding this interview, and we've been able to further extend the rent on it. So that demonstrates that the activities that we've been involved in has been beneficial to the Secretariat. So the Secretariat is really self-sustaining, which is a good thing, and I really commend the work of the Executive Secretary, Ajibola Olude, to ensure that anything that we get involved in produces a surplus. As you know, we're a not-for-profit organization. Yes, we depend on the membership's subscriptions, but additional activities also helps. And one of the areas that we highlight is that we also demonstrated that we had signed an MOU with NIGECOMSAT, how we can get some of our members to utilize that platform a lot more in the rural areas, especially in the rollout of broadband services in the rural areas. And we're happy that one of our members already is utilizing the NIGECOMSAT platform. And the second thing was we also gave an opportunity for TV white space to be discussed in a manner that hadn't been addressed in the past. And again, that was another initiative that came from ATCON. It gives an opportunity generally for the regulator, in our case NCC, to share their plans with us, and also for our members to also give recommendations to the regulator as to how they view the industry and some of the concerns that are impacting on their business model. In this turf, it was very dynamic. We had 4 panels, and we had good representation from NCC, who did a pretty good job, because I think at times you would have felt that the regulator would be defensive, but they were actually accommodating with their responses. They appreciated that there were a lot of areas we needed to address, and they were able to also give us some insight into their thinking going forward. I think the main thrust of that meeting was around compliance. You know, some of our members had been hit with fines, you know, and they wanted to understand exactly how they can improve on not only the compliance but on corporate governance, and also areas that they felt were outside their control, like rights of ways. We had always, as a tradition, recognized and received honorable ministers. This honorable minister is young, he's dynamic, and he's forthright. He says what is on his mind. He's different from other ministers, and I think ATCON is in the best position to share with this honorable minister different experiences, because we've gone through many ministers. You know, the association has been in existence 26 years now. So that experience is not out of an accident. So we took it upon ourselves as an ATCON, and we discussed it at the National Executive Council, that as soon as it is possible, we would receive this new minister into our fold. We tried to have the event earlier, but obviously he being very busy with many things on his table, the best time to do was in December. We had agreed that back at GITEX in October, I believe, where he said that yes, around December would be a good time frame. Well, I've still got to call a National Executive Council meeting later this month, so I can't give you definitives. But you can be rest assured, turf is a constant. That's definitely one that we'll do. The NITSA hopefully will still continue. There has to be one big one that I can say, if we get the approval of NEC, I think that it's an idea that we've been chewing over, and that's to get all stakeholders, and when I mean stakeholders, almost every ministry, department, agency at the federal level, at least, to be engaged with all stakeholder, private sector stakeholders in a conference. And what do we want to deliberate about? You know that our ministry is no longer called the Ministry of Communications, it's the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. That's a big one. I'm telling you, it's a big one. It's a very brave minister to add on digital economy. We've been challenged by communications. He calls it a channel. I don't see it that way. I see that telecoms is the bedrock of any smart city, any future digital economy you want to build. So we've got to get the foundation correct. And if you talk to any consumer, they're not happy with certain things. So we have some very topical issues: data depletion, data rates, quality of service, and it speaks to the digital economy, because for once it's been recognized now that the voice-centric era has now left us, because voice is just one of many applications that will be run going forward. Now we've had trials of 5G by one of our members, and there'll be others who will trial out 5G. What do we do with these technologies? So it's very important that the timing is critical, because we also established that even if we build the digital economy infrastructure, we need to actually solve the digital demand. And that digital demand is something that in ATCON's history we've not had to address or attend to. And what do I mean by the digital demand? If you speak to the Gen Zs, Gen Ys, the millennials, they don't see telecom infrastructure the way you and I see it. They just pick up the phone and do amazing things with it. And one of the amazing things is that we have some great talent amongst our youth in entertainment. Nollywood is a massive industry. The content there is currency. So we are talking about digital rights, digital data sovereignty, local content, and we could go on and on. These are themes that ATCON never addressed in the past.
Yes.
Never, we were talking about towers, phones, mobile switching centers, and I can go on and on and on. Very voice early, but the youth don't. They say, what is a mobile switching center? They know social media. They know the Facebooks. They know the Amazons. They know cloud. Yeah. So that's a different language. And so we're going through that transition, and ATCON has members now that speak in that language. So as a body, we need to transition and evolve to that generation, because that's the future of the telco industry. It's how do we have the OTT players, the over-the-top applications, using the telco infrastructure, and also ensuring that it's not just those that can afford it, but those that can't afford it have access to that. So it becomes a right and not a privilege.
This is Digivation Network.